7 years ago, the ocean took my father. At least, that's what everyone said. Boats disappear. Storms happen. Men make mistakes. But my father wasn't careless, and he wasn't chasing storms. He was chasing something else, something he wrote about in a notebook he never meant for me to find. On the first page was a date circled over and over again, February 20th. Under it, one sentence. The island returns. I told myself it was grief talking. A myth to make sense of loss. But when that date came around again, exactly 7 years later, the ocean changed. The tide pulled back too far. The air went still. And I received a message that disappeared before I could show anyone. A photo of my father's notebook. Coordinates I'd never seen. A simple instruction, come alone. I didn't go alone. Jonah Pike was waiting at the pier like he'd been carved out of driftwood and salt. He knew my name. He knew my father. He told me there was a stretch of ocean that didn't behave like the rest, a seam where two currents met and formed a hidden road. Every 7 years, if you followed that seam, land would rise where maps insisted there was nothing. Ships that tried to document it lost their records. People who tried to expose it lost credibility, or worse. I didn't trust him. But I recognized the look in his eyes. It was the same look my father used to get when he was close to something dangerous and important. Layla wasn't supposed to be part of this. She was practical. Logical. The kind of person who believed mysteries existed only until you measured them correctly. But she saw the notebook in my hands and the direction I was heading, and she refused to let me disappear into a story without a witness. So the three of us sailed into water that felt too quiet, following coordinates that shifted like they didn't want to be found. The fog found us first. It didn't drift in naturally. It swallowed. Thick and heavy, muting the ocean until the world felt padded and unreal. The GPS spun useless numbers. The radio crackled with breath-like static. And then I heard it. My father's voice. Calling my name from inside the fog. Jonah grabbed my arm before I could move. He told me the island doesn't just appear. It calls. It studies. It learns what you want to hear. When the fog peeled back, it was there. An island where there shouldn't have been one. Black sand warm under our boots. Cliffs cut into unnatural angles. A tower-like structure crouched at the center like it was waiting for us. The sea around it was calm in a way that felt forced, like still water in a glass someone was holding too carefully. The air felt aware. We didn't have to search long before we found the first sign that this place had been touched by more than myth. A stone slab with a circular indentation at its center. Symbols carved around it in patterns of 7. And beneath the sand and rock, hidden in the slope, a door. Metal. Engineered. Corroded by salt and time. My father had drawn it in his notebook. Inside was not ancient ruin, but infrastructure. Concrete corridors. Warning signs. Abandoned shelves labeled with project names no one was meant to remember. Aurora Project. Field logs. Subject response. They hadn't built the island. They had found it. Studied it. Tried to control it. And when it began to answer back, they sealed it and erased it from record. In a chamber lined with speakers, we learned how it answered. The island didn't broadcast random noise. It shaped memory into sound. It reproduced voices in perfect tone, not recordings, not echoes, but something deeper. It modeled the human mind and reflected it back with surgical precision. When we found a tape labeled with my father's name, I wasn't sure if I wanted it to be real. But it was his voice. Tired. Afraid. Certain of one thing, the island tempts before it. Traps. It offers you what you want most. As we descended deeper, the corridors curved subtly, guiding us in loops. Photos Layla took began to change in her phone. Shadows appearing where there had been none. New markings on walls. The environment editing itself, or our perception of it, until doubt became its own maze. Then we saw them. Through a glass wall, copies of ourselves walking confidently through a mirrored corridor. Movements slightly wrong. Faces too calm. My double stopped and stared at me. Her lips formed two words I could read without hearing them. Open it. The mouth was at the center of everything. A circular opening rimmed in metal, breathing warm air in slow pulses. 7 recesses carved around it. 7 years between appearances. A device Jonah had once found with 7 prongs that fit perfectly into those slots. The pattern was obvious. The island loved completion. It loved cycles. And it spoke again, not with my father's voice this time. With mine. It promised I could bring him back. That it repeated promises I'd whispered alone at 15 years old, words no one else had ever heard. It didn't threaten. It didn't roar. It tempted. It understood that hope is more powerful than fear. That grief can be shaped into a key. But my father had left one instruction clear enough to survive distortion. Trust ink, not air. When we surfaced again, the shoreline looked thinner. The fog closer. The path markers twisted. The island was closing. Or maybe it was simply finished with us. In my father's notebook, new writing appeared, words in his hand telling me to leave without him. Telling me if I ever returned, it shouldn't be for rescue, it should be to close the mouth. We ran for the boat as the sky drained of color. The island didn't sink when we pulled away. It blurred. Like reality decided not to render it anymore. One moment cliffs and towers stood against the horizon. The next, fog folded inward and erased them. Out at sea, when the air felt like ours again, I opened the notebook one last time. A new date circled. 7 years from now. The island doesn't disappear. It waits. And now it knows my name.